I would like to introduce Michelle Minero, who wrote the book Self-Love Diet, the only diet that works. Good title. Also, I find the cover very fascinating. It's very navel-gazing. Michelle Minero is a licensed marriage family therapist who specializes in eating disorder recovery. She created an intensive outpatient eating disorder program in 2000, and in 2005 founded EDRS, Eating Disorder Recovery Support Incorporated, a California Bay Area-based nonprofit organization. Her dream is to see a world filled with people who love themselves and their bodies. Welcome, Michelle Minero.
So what I'm going to do is, first I'd just like to let you know that although this book comes out of my work with working with people in recovery from eating disorders, what I have found is that people who do not have eating disorders are really relating to it. And so at the end, if you have any questions, please feel free to be able to ask questions. I notice that sometimes people think, well, I have to have an eating disorder in order to say something. And that's not the case. I think we all can benefit from loving ourselves more. So chapter 1, Que Lastima. What a shame. She has such a pretty face. And here is the quote from the Dalai Lama. We can never obtain peace in the outer world until we make peace with ourselves. And there's a picture of myself and my grandmother. I don't know if you can see it, but if you buy the book, you can look really closely. Que lastima, what a shame, I hear my grandmother cry in Spanish. Michelle has such a pretty face, but she's too fat. You have to do something about it. My mother counters. It's just baby fat, she will grow out of it. At 5 years old, I overheard this argument between my mother and my grandmother. Being fat is bad. That is what my grandmother's tone of voice taught me. Even though my mom defended me, from that day forward, I believed something was wrong with me. I wasn't good enough. Even though I was told I had a pretty face, it never made up for the fact that I was fat. This memory of my mother and grandmother arguing over my appearance took root and started me on a lifelong battle with my body and issues with food. Compulsive overeating became my main way of dealing with life challenges. If I was upset, food calmed me, distracted me, and brought me instant pleasure. The seed that was planted back then, paradoxically, led me on a road towards self-love and acceptance. This journey has had many twists and turns, leading me instinctively to my current profession as a marriage and family therapist, specializing in helping people recover from eating disorders. I've been working with women and their issues with their bodies and food as a licensed marriage family therapist since 1994. And I began leading support groups for compulsive overeaters as an intern counselor in 1992. In the sanctuary of my office, I sit with talented, gifted, creative, caring, and beautiful women. I have worked with girls as young as 10, up to women in their 60s, and recently I have been working with more men. They share with me the intimate details of their self-hatred, condemnation, and disgust of their bodies. There is an alternative to this self-degradation, which is living life with joy, deep love, and devotion. Through my recovery, I've learned that each day is an opportunity to be conscious and mindful of the miracles in each moment. Others may mistake these miracles as mundane occurrences. I do not. I used to wake up thinking about what I was going to eat or not eat. I'd get out of bed and step on the scale in order to know if it was going to be a good day. My first thoughts when I wake up now are about what I'm grateful for. My love for my husband and his love for me, my family, spending time with my granddaughter, the sun coming through the window on a sunny morning, and having a career that I love that allows me to help others. My life is now filled with miracles, wonder, grace, and love. These experiences are what led me to write this book, and these experiences are what led me to create the Self-Love Diet. In Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Eat, Pray, Love, a young man named Giovanni teaches Elizabeth how to speak Italian. When she becomes frustrated by not being able to think of a word in Italian, Giovanni tells her, "Liz, you must be very polite with yourself when you are learning something new." I pass Giovanni's advice on to you. When reading Self-Love Diet, the only diet that works, you may be learning something new. Depending on where you are in the process of loving yourself and your body, you might find yourself resisting the suggestions and the action steps at the end of each chapter. Or you may find yourself ready to jump in. Give yourself permission to just notice where you are in the process of loving yourself and your body, and let it be your starting point. My minimum prayer is that you will become more polite to yourself from reading this book, which will lead you to increased self-acceptance. My maximum prayer is that you will begin each day from this day forward with the intention and action of loving yourself, which will extend healing into our world. How would your life be different if you experienced frequent moments of self-acceptance and love?
I can't reach my other mic now. Sorry. Are there any questions for Michelle? Yes?
So we all know that in this culture, developing an attitude of self-love, which given the variety of body types we have and how many of us do not fit the cultural ideal, what are the ways that you suggest people should find support for themselves while they engage in your self-love diet?
Okay. So the question was, in this culture, it's very difficult to love ourselves. It's not a self-love and body-loving culture. And how can we get support while we're trying to do this? Okay. So the way that we would begin is to first separate ourselves from our body and understand that we are not our body, but we have a self inside here. We are a spiritual being in a human form. And many times people will say, well, self-love diet, loving yourself, Michelle, especially my clients, how do I love myself if I really don't love myself? I don't love myself, I hate myself, so what am I going to do about that? So the beginning part is to maybe look at our bodies as instruments instead of ornaments. And how can I be grateful to my body for what it does for me? I also have a 20-something-year-old daughter who is a social media guru, and she has created, along with myself, a Love Warrior community, online community that actually does support body love, self-love through music and the creative process of videos and art and poetry and photographs of people who are not airbrushed. We have to really create a community that loves ourselves. I don't know about you, but I don't usually meet people and have people say, "Hi, Michelle, I love myself and I love my body. How are you?" We have to create that, something that we have to make.
Another question?
I was just thinking about the words you were using, diet and fat, and you can go on and on, skinny, all those words, and I'm thinking about how they're trending into kind of a different description of the words. I wonder if you can speak to that a little bit, particularly with the word diet and how you kind of twisted that.
Thank you very much. That's a great question. Eating disorder professionals kind of think of diet as kind of like being like the F word. We don't like to say it out loud. You don't like to say it in front of people because although diets do not create eating disorders, they tend to be sort of like the gateway for a lot of people. And so what I did is I took the definition in the dictionary of diet. I looked it up, and I didn't like the first one, which said something about restricting food. I didn't like the second one, which said, only diet and exercise. The third one said things regularly offered. Now there is the definition of diet that I could use. What if we regularly offered our self-love and what we thought and what we did and how we were with ourselves and others? If we loved our bodies, ourselves, our relationships, our culture, our world, then now we can heal. And in each given moment, if we are present in this moment and not in the past or in the future, but really hold on to this moment and try to make it the most loving moment for ourselves and others, now we've got some power. So in the self-love diet, it's not food and exercise. It's like the 1-2 punch. There's 7 paths. And the first one is spirit. Because I do believe that nobody comes into my office, Jean, and says, "Hi, Michelle, I have an eating disorder and I'm seeking my spirituality or God or my purpose in life. Can you please help me?" They just don't. But I really do believe that that's really what is at the base of it. So spirituality is a path. Body, how we can be grateful for our body, listen to our body, listen to the feelings and sensations like you were talking about. What does it feel like when I'm hungry, when I'm angry, when I'm sad? And our bodies have their own language. Our minds also have their own language. We have to be really careful that we don't believe everything we think. And our emotions are really connected to what we think and what we do. It's interrelated, so I put those 2 paths together, the mind and the emotions. Can't really tweeze them out. And then relationship with ourself and our body, number 1, and then with everybody else. And then our culture. So, in regular diet, we don't really think about culture except for the diet mentality, the diet business. It's a $4 billion business. But we can create, everybody in this room can create a culture of self-love and self-acceptance. In my office, I don't have People magazines or airbrushed magazines. I have National Geographic and Scientific America and those kinds of magazines because I want people who are sitting in my office not to be bombarded by the culture that would help the diet industry because I don't believe that that's really an industry that I want to support. And lastly, the last path is the world. I truly believe that every single person here in this room has the ability to make a change, starting with yourself. When you look in the mirror, looking into your eyes instead of looking to see if you have wrinkles or if you have a double chin or if you have gray hair or whatever. But looking into your eyes and really seeing that really valuable person inside of you, that can change the world.
And one last question. I didn't hear you mention any males. Do you have any male clients? And the second part of my question is, do you feel that women are harder on themselves than men are?
Okay, that's a really good question. I have few male clients that come into my office. More recently, both with anorexia and compulsive overeating or binge eating, have not had anybody with bulimia, a male, yet, in my office. Do I think that women are harder on themselves, you said? That's a good question. I don't know how to answer that because my experience is skewed. So I see more women than I see men. I think that what we're seeing right now is sort of like this battle going on. It's sort of energetic, sort of symbolic. You see it in commercials and you see people sort of, pushing down men, pushing down women, raising men. I think it's really sort of an attempt more on a global scale, more of a spiritual sort of way of trying to balance out all the energy in the world. I mean, we have to kind of We have to have both male and female energy in order to have a world that's going to be sustainable. We need to honor both of those kinds of ways of being in the world. And so I think we're just watching kind of the battle going on.
Well, thank you very much, Michelle.
Thank you.